I was 19 when I got married. By the time I was 20, I was also a mother. Unfortunately for me, that marriage was not the best of relationships to be in. It was quite toxic, it was quite abusive. There was also physical abuse on many instances.
And Shagufta, it takes a lot of courage to take a step after 17 years of abuse and conditioning, right? There are a couple of aspects or different challenges here, right? The societal challenge, which you mentioned about. There are also the financial challenges, right? You don't have a bank account, forget bank balance. How did you manage that?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, do you aspire to be an entrepreneur? To build your own business? To leave a legacy behind? If you want to know how to get started, or if you're already on your journey and want some help on how to tackle the challenges you're facing, this show is for you. Here at Be Your Own Boss, we hear from entrepreneurs about their stories, some very practical tips, and some inspiration. It's time to get started.
Welcome to another episode of Be Your Own Boss. Our guest this week is Shagufta Patel, and Shagufta is an image transformation specialist. What is an image transformation specialist? What does image mean to your personality? What does image mean in your life? We'll find out about all these things, and we'll find out about Shagufta's journey. And it is a wonderful journey. You will see that when we hear from her about her story. So let's begin. Shagufta, thank you so much for taking our time and joining us here on the Be Your Own Boss podcast. Welcome
Thank
to
you,
the show.
Sachin. Thank you for having me on your show. Absolutely delighted to be here talking to your audience, sharing my journey.
Thank you. So, Shagufta, we'll talk about your image transformation journey and all of what you do to transform the lives of people. But before we get to that, let's start from the beginning. Let's start with your journey. So, why don't you tell us about your parents and your childhood? How many siblings you had, and how was your childhood?
All right. So I was born in Bombay, 1973, 15th August.
Oh, wow, 15th August.
Yes, 15th August, 1973. There were no big news headlines that day, of course. But of course, the life of my parents changed because I was born like after 5 years of their marriage. My uncle, aunt, who were already married, they didn't have kids of their own. So you can well imagine that I was a very protected child, not a pampered one, because, um, it was a modest home
Yeah.
with modest means that we were living in. Born in Bombay, have one younger brother who's 3.5 years younger to me. And life growing up was pretty much just a home and school. Back then, I'm talking about the early 1970s and 70s where I grew up, we didn't have Google, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have the phones, right?
We barely had television back then.
We didn't even have television
Yeah.
back then, It was such a huge occasion when the television and the telephone came home.
Yeah.
I still remember that day. And the point being is that life was just, restricted to the little that you knew just about your family and friends. That's about it. And growing up, I was a very obedient child, very disciplined, very studious for that matter.
Yeah.
And I was very fond of reading books. Yes. And that was it. That was life. That's it.
So you were a studious child, and how did the journey go after that? After school, did what kind of studies did you go into in college? What did you take up?
I wanted to be a doctor, a medical doctor, and I was studying to be a medical doctor. After my school, I joined the science stream, obviously, because I wanted to be into the medical fraternity. But I got engaged when I was still in college, and I didn't, or my in-laws were not very keen on me pursuing medicine because it would be a very long, again, study, and then all of that, you know how long it can be. So then I gave up that, and I just chose to complete my graduation instead. And I got married while I was still in college. So I was 19 when I got married.
Wow. You were 19 when you got
Yes,
married.
I was very young when I got married, very naive when I got married. And I was, by the time I was 20, I was also a mother.
Oh.
And I finished my graduation actually after my daughter was. So I took a break of a year, and then I completed my graduation in BSc. I did zoology, which was the closest that came to medicine, and I finished my graduation.
So you still had the passion for medicine, for this, but you took zoology so that it can still be close, but you didn't.
Nowhere close to medicine, but that was the closest to medicine. So I just finished my graduation in zoology. That was it.
Got it.
And I got married, yes.
Now, Shagufta, if we quickly look at today, just for a moment, right? Today you're an entrepreneur. Back then, as a child or when going to college, did you have the aspiration, or did you even think that you will become an entrepreneur one day?
Not at all, Sachin, because back then growing up, the only thing that I had in mind was to become a doctor and to be happily married, have kids of my own, you know, as every young girl dreams of, having a husband, having a home, having a family, having kids.
Yeah.
And these were the only two dreams. So my dreams were very limited. You know, it wasn't that I want to become an entrepreneur and I want to do this, and it was never on my horizon, ever, ever. Yeah.
Life changed.
Completely. And how?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll come to that part of your journey. So you got married at the age of 19. At 20, you're a mother, and your life completely changed now from being a college girl to a family woman. You're a mother.
I was a mother, but it didn't end there because, well, that's what, you know, the story of my entrepreneurship begins from, actually. If everything was okay, I think I would still have been a homemaker, being at home, looking after my kids, you know, like how lots of women in our society do, being a homemaker, raising up kids, and going out, being with your friends, and that's it, life ends. But that is not what it was for me, because unfortunately for me, that marriage was not the best of relationships to be in. It was quite toxic. It was quite abusive. There was also physical abuse on many instances. And I continued in that marriage. I even came back to my parents' home twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but eventually went back because you know how the conditioning is. Things will change. You're the woman, you've got to be a little more adjusting, more compromising. It's always the woman who needs to, you know, be a little adjusting, compromising. Oh, now you have children, because I had a boy then after 4.5 years. So by 24, I had 2 kids. You have kids, you've got to think about them now. You know, you can't think of moving away, because what will happen to kids in their life? Apna ho gaya, now you've got to think about them. And, oh, give it some more time, you know, things will change. They never did, they just got worse. So it stayed in that marriage for 17 years, when finally one day it hit me, and it hit me hard, that what am I doing, you know? Because my daughter stopped studying in the 9th standard. There was an instance, and I don't want to get into that, but yeah, there were times when she actually stopped studying. With great difficulty, I even made her complete her 10th standard. So I realized, you know, that, well, I'm here for their sake, and if it's not doing them any good, what's the point in me being here, you know? And that was the time that I decided that, no, this has to end. And this was 2010. I was 38 at that time. And the one sentence that literally helped me take this step, because 17 years, when you're in that situation, you begin to doubt yourself, actually.
Yeah.
Is it something really wrong with me that I'm doing, that I'm, you know, going through all of this? Your self-esteem becomes very low. Yeah. And that was what I was going through. But then I also felt very empty, and I couldn't be the mother that I wanted to be for my children. I couldn't be the sister, the daughter that I wanted to be, the friend that I wanted to be, because you have us so empty here. Yeah. And so that one line that I had read somewhere, it came flooding back to me, that you can't serve from an empty bowl.
You can't serve from an empty bowl.
You can't serve from an empty bowl. And then, that line just flashed across my eyes.
Yeah.
And it really hit me, because empty is exactly what I was feeling at that moment.
Yeah. And Shagufta, it takes a lot of courage to take a step after 17 years of abuse and conditioning, right? In these 17, 18 years, you were filled with self-doubt because of the conditioning. And now from that point to come out of that takes a lot of courage. And you did it. Kudos to you for having done that.
Thank you.
And so this sentence that you can't serve from an empty bowl came to you as something that you read. And what else helped you in that kind of a situation to take that bold step?
Nothing helped me except for this one determination that I had for myself, that I need to change the situation for me and my kids. So there was nobody at that time, though my family knew the troubles that I was going through, they understood the pain that I was going through, they could see it all. And yet they were scared for me to take that step, not because they didn't love me, it was because of their concern for me, that what are you going to do now, Shagufta? You're 38. You've never worked before. You don't have work experience. Age is not on your side. We say that, right? I'm 38 now. There's an entire new generation that has come into the workforce. You don't have a bank balance. You don't have a bank account. Knowing your situation, we know there's going to be no alimony or maintenance unless, you kind of fight or raise your voice for it, which is what I didn't want to. And so what are you going to do now? And not that I was coming back to a family that was very financially well off. My father had a brain stroke. He had stopped working. So not that he could be a great financial support to me as well. So considering all of this, people were like, are you mad? Are you crazy? You're taking this step. What are you going to do? I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I have no clue what I'm going to do. All I know at this point in time is that I can't be here, because being here is not serving me or my kids in any way. I can just see all of us going down south.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was still in Bombay, right? You were still in Mumbai?
I was not in Bombay. I was married in a town called Belgaum in Karnataka.
Belgaum. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So then you decided to take this step and you divorced your husband and you came to Mumbai after Belgaum?
So I came to Bombay and then I kind of applied, or we filed for divorce.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when I came, my daughter had just passed out her 10th. My son was going to the 8th standard. So I kind of got her admission in college. I got him admission in a school. It wasn't easy because you're also changing states. You know how it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The divorce proceedings were going on around that time. The society was not very contributing. You know how harsh it can be with all of that going on. So managed that and took a kind of low, didn't really do something very, I just wanted to get over it first before I started doing anything for myself. And of course, I didn't even have a resume to my name or credit, no work experience over there. So I actually had no direction where to begin from.
So at this point in time, you've come to Mumbai, you've filed for the divorce, and you've got your kids admission in college and school. There are a couple of aspects or different challenges here, right? The societal challenge, which you mentioned about. There are also the financial challenges, right? How did you manage that when, like the concerns that your friends had and your parents had, that what are you going to do, right? You don't have a bank account, forget bank balance. How did you manage that?
Well, those are things that come later. I think the only thing I had was a place to go to. So I was lucky that, fortunate at least, my parents were then supportive. That once I had decided, no, this is what I want to do, at least I had a place to stay. And from there on, I started then thinking, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I need to do for myself to start? And how long are your parents going to be there to support you? Yeah. So, of course, they were there. The shelter was there. The meals were there on the table. But how long can this go on? You need to start doing something for yourself. And then the only thing that I could think of at that time, Sachin, was that, when you apply for jobs on platforms which had then come up like Naukri.com or whatever, these online job portals were there, they had a filtering system where if you didn't have the keywords of MBA or some work experience, your resume could not even pass the first filter. True? So I decided then, okay, the only way for me to now at least move forward in some direction is to do an MBA. And I chose to do MBA in marketing. And my aunt, she funded my studies. So got a little fortunate there, God bless her. So, and that's how I started with MBA in marketing. And it was a distant learning program. So I started from there.
Yeah.
So I had to learn to create a resume, make a resume, all of that. Yeah.
Tell us about that part. So you did your MBA and then you started to apply for jobs, right? And how was your first experience at the interview where you?
So I didn't start immediately. Like I said, 6 months, all this was going on. Then I started studying. Then after 6 months, I started applying. I had to send my son back to his father because, I did. I had to send him back because education expenses was becoming something for me. And in his best interest, I thought it best to send him back. And I sent him back to his father then, which is, I think, even a tougher choice to make than even the divorce itself. Then I then started applying and looking for jobs. And I remember my first interview, I didn't even carry a resume with me because I didn't know that you're supposed to carry a resume with you. But of course, the interview didn't last even for 2 minutes. But I learned at every step. I learned how to make a resume. I did a couple of mock interviews with one of my friends who supported me on it. Started applying for jobs. Identified what would be my strength, because I didn't have work experience, but I believe everybody has a strength that you can begin with, right? And so I identified that in me.
And what was that?
That was my communication. So I had a strong communication, but along with that, I also had a fear of talking to people. So you might be a great orator, great communicator, but I could not sit and have a conversation like this with people. I had to work a lot on that as well.
So communication, which was your key strength, you couldn't play your strength because of the fear that you had of.
It took me a lot of courage when I went for the interview. So it was it was where I had to pick up the phone and talk to people. My first job actually eventually became that with JM Financial Services, where I was part of the marketing team. I was still studying at that time. I had not completed my studies. I was still studying while I applied for my job interview. And I had to be part of the marketing team where they had their franchisees pan India. And I had to actually pick up the call and speak to each one of them to understand what their grievances were, how we could support them on it. And I was literally shivering while talking to them because that was one of my fears, conversing with people, having those conversations. And it was very scary, but you say if it's required, it's required. You do it.
Absolutely.
Dar ke aage jeete. That's exactly what it is, right? There is life beyond fear as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I had to overcome that, because I wanted the job so badly. I had to do it.
And also, Shagufta, you are a very strong woman. That fear that you had the power in you to overcome that fear and still do it, because and that shows your strength.
Don't we all have that strength within us, Sachin?
Absolutely.
I believe we all have it within us. We've just not tapped into it.
Yeah.
We've just not recognized that power within us.
Yeah.
We all have it.
True, true. So, so you got this job where you had to talk to people, and you were working in this company. And then what happened? How long did you continue there?
So after I joined them, and it was going okay, it was going pretty well. And just three months within me joining them, they moved the office to a very far off location. Now, if you're from Bombay, or if you have the slightest idea about Bombay,
I am from Bombay.
yeah. So here I was, south of Bombay, near Muhammad Ali Road. That's where my parents were, between Bombay Central, and that's where I was staying. And now they moved the office. The office was first at Churchgate, so it was very easy to commute. Now they moved the office to Malar.
Okay.
Yeah. So now to travel, I was like spending 5 hours a day traveling, changing 3 modes of transport one way,
Yeah.
then work and studies and come back. And of course, you have to do some home chores too. You can't just be sitting around. It was nightmarish. It was so exhausting, And so I was like, this can't go on for long. And I started looking for another job then. And just as I was about to be made permanent in that job that I was doing with JM Financials, I got this opportunity with Femina magazine, Times of
Femina
India.
magazine.
Yes,
Wow.
yeah. So the opportunity I got was that of a post-production editorial assistant. It was working with the edit team.
Yeah.
And was just handling the production processes. So luckily, that particular profile did not require me to have a background in mass media, journalism, any of that, because all I had to do was handle the production processes, right? And in the edit team, I think that is the lowest rung of the ladder that you are in. It's just handling the production processes. But it worked fine for me because it gave me a job. It got some money in for me to take care of my expenses and stuff. It was close to home. It was very close to home. It was like about 20-minute walk from home, which was fabulous. Yeah. To get a place so close to home in Bombay is like, I think, the most fortunate thing one can have. And then being Times of India, a good brand. The work timings were good. I could, after my work hours, I could sit there, study, go back home. And so I was with Femina for 3 years. And during those 3 years, I finished my MBA in marketing. I topped my batch in MBA in marketing, and I could have applied for a job in marketing and got it, but I did not.
So you could have applied for a job within Times of India.
Within or outside, anywhere I could have applied and looked for a marketing job, because now I had a degree, MBA in marketing.
Yeah.
I had a little bit of work experience there. I can say, okay, I've worked in a corporate environment.
Yeah. And a big brand like Times of India.
And a big brand like Times of India, though I was not with the marketing. But still, regardless of that, at least now you're better off from where you had actually started.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then marketing, but I said, no, this is not what I want to do. And again, everybody, like my family, like, what's going on with you? You've just finished MBA in marketing. You've done so well in marketing. You've spent 2.5 years of hard work and studies, completing an MBA, master's. And now you're saying you don't want to do that. And I said, no, I don't want to do that.
And what did you want to do?
I didn't know.
You didn't?
I didn't know what I wanted to do. No. And so the question was now, what's next, Shagufta? Because if marketing is not a job that, is seemingly exciting for you or something that you want to do.
Yeah.
The job at Femina, secure as it is again not something that you can see yourself doing for the rest of your life. What is it that you want to do? Yeah. That was the next question in my mind. Again, no clue, no direction. Yeah. And, as you say, that once Times of India corridor, I was walking there, and the newspapers were lying. And I'm a person who runs away from newspapers. I don't like reading newspapers, yeah. But just that day, I just was, okay, let's see. I was just flipping through the newspaper and one ad popped out.
Hold that thought. On that note, we'll take a quick break here. What was that ad? What did she see in that ad? And how did that ad change her life? We'll see this after this short break.
Success lies beyond your comfort zone. Hi, I'm Hemant Jain, life coach and a business coach, also called the uncomfortable coach and clarity coach. I make people go from their comfort zone into their uncomfortable zone and seek and find clarity in life. I help them go further and higher in life. On the business coaching side, I help businesses double their business value very predictably in 2 years' time through peer to peer executive boards. Contact me, talk to me to find the newer heights of life that await you.
Welcome back, and let's continue with the story now. So you were in the corridor of Times of India, and you were flipping through the newspaper.
Yes. So this ad that popped up was something that said about image management. And I was like, wow, this seems interesting. And let me go and see what that is. And that was a concept that was just introduced like about 6 months back in India. And so I went to the orientation. I saw what it was. It was a year-long program that spoke on the 3 elements of image, what image is and what are the 3 elements. I've added 2 more to it now because I realized it's not only those 3. And it was a year-long program with classes every Sunday, so it worked fine for me because Monday to Friday at work, Saturday do your assignment, Sunday back to class.
Yeah.
So I went for that. I finished my year-long program in image consulting and became an image consultant as well. That was, I think, the turning point also in my life where I realized that, by the way, the 3 things they taught us was the ABC of image, which is appearance and grooming, body language, behaviors, communication. And by the time I finished the course year-long, the realization that I had, Sachin, that, okay, appearance and grooming, communication, still okay for people to change. And my appearance and grooming was quite okay.
Yeah.
My communication was good. But like I told you, the fear that I had, that even though my vocabulary was so strong, my communication was so strong, the fear was having this conversation with people.
Yeah.
And so then and I identified this in the people around me as well. The observation was that, well, there are people who have a lot of limitations, a lot of things that they are struggling with, a lot of challenges. And how do you overcome that now? So that led me on a path of doing a lot of stuff, working on myself, identifying the limitations, the blocks at every step, and working on myself to overcome that. And when I started doing that, the growth, the transformation, or the acceleration that was happening in my life was very quick.
So you started working on yourself, and that's when you started transforming and you started growing faster.
Yes, absolutely. Right.
And so when we say working on yourself, you did this course, right, of image transformation. And other than that, what were the things that you did to develop yourself?
So I've done a lot of things in these last 8-10 years that I've been working on myself. Like I said, each time I identified a block, a limitation, something that I needed to work on for myself. I looked for a solution. I worked on that and I got myself certified in that particular thing because I saw it working. So I've done NLP. After doing image consulting, I've done NLP. I've done hypnotherapy. I've done M-braining, which is multiple brain integration technique. I've done pranic healing. I've done AFT quantum healing. I've done access consciousness. Now I do body whispering. I also, in between all of this, realized that a lot of our limitations, a lot of our conditioning is coming from when we are children.
Yeah.
That is the foundational years. That is where our conditioning is happening. And then what is the way that you can actually then work on children so that they grow up to be adults that are, confident and they don't struggle with the way I struggled or the way I saw my children struggling. So then I'm also certified as a Golding Method coach and trainer. I'm the only one in India.
Yeah.
And the only Golding Method trainer in UAE at the moment.
Wow.
So I work with parents. The Golding Method is especially for kids between the ages of 0 to 13 years. We call it the pregnancy to the puberty program. And I also work with parents on something called as the progressive parenting principles, because once a parent, always a parent, aren't you?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you focus on parenting. You help parents in the parenting, and you also help people with the image, right?
So because it all ties in image, such an image. If I talk of image of a person, now what is an image of a person, right? It's everything about an individual, everything about you, right from the way that you dress, when I say dress, it's the external part of you, but there's also the internal body, right? So the way you appear, the way you sit, walk, talk, communicate with outside and also yourself, the way you manage your emotional and mental states, the way you manage your relationships at home, socially, professionally, the way you digitally represent yourself, and also most importantly, which people really not aware of, is your energetic hygiene. So all this now comes together to form your image.
Yeah. So it's like a complete package of who you are as a person.
Absolutely, who you are as a person. And then naturally, when I talk of parenting, it comes under it because it's about managing relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the most important relationships.
It is, isn't it? Because if you're not a parent, you're also a child to somebody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, it does change the relationship dynamics in a massive way.
Yeah. So continuing with your story there, so you were working here with Times of India, and then you decided that you don't want to take that, and you started working on yourself on you started learning image transformation here. And then what happened? Where did you go from there?
Then Dubai happened. So this was 2015, where a friend who I had, gotten in touch with, and he had an established business in Muscat, Oman, and he was starting an office here in Dubai, like a sister branch office, and he wanted somebody who could manage the office, the administration of it in his absence. And he asked me, would you be willing to come here and take over the administration, manage the office? I said, yes, why not? It was an opportunity. So I said yes, and I came here. And after coming here, he kind of, within 6 months, wound it up. He closed down because he and his partner had some, disagreement there. And so I was again left here with two choices: go back to India or look for an opportunity. And I found one with International Center with Culinary Arts, ICCA.
Okay.
Where I was working as a people development specialist, and did that for 4 years.
Wow. So Shagufta, going one step back here, when your friend asked you if you could come here and join or manage this office for him here, right, the Dubai office, did you have any experience about that business in itself? What business was it, by the way?
It was an IT company.
IT company. And you didn't have any experience
No
of that?
background in IT.
Yeah. So, and you took that bold step and took that chance and said, yes, I will do it.
By now you should know that I've been taking bold steps all along, Sachin.
Yeah. Now I'm not surprised anymore.
Yes.
Yeah. Great.
So it was again, is tuning into yourself and seeing, is this what you really want and want to do for yourself? So yeah, it was a risk again I was taking, quitting, leaving the job and deciding to come here, not knowing what lay ahead. But then was it something that was exciting for me? Yes, it was. And I was ready.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you came here, you worked for this company, or, your friend, you ran this business, and then that changed. And
so I was not running the business, but just kind of managing the administration part of the office for him. And unfortunately, like I said, he had to shut down.
Yeah.
And then I had two choices: go back or look for another job. So I started looking for a job. I found this job with ICCA, where I was the people development specialist for 4 years. And remember I told you where I didn't know how to give an interview?
Yeah.
And now life came a full, where I was now coaching students on how to give interviews and how to crack interviews, and coaching them and training them on it, on their personality, on their grooming part, on their mental attitudes and makeup.
Wow.
Everything. And not only coaching them, but also helping them get jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Life did come full circle.
Absolutely did, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. And so you continued with this one, where you were working with this company there at ICCA for 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
COVID happened. And I was stuck in India. I didn't lose my job. No, I did not. I was there. I came back after 4.5 months. And after 4.5 months, during that COVID period, my friend and partner, he came up with the idea of Aspire, which was a magazine that he wanted to start. He's been into publication working with print media all his life. And he had this idea and he presented the idea to me. And I said, hey, I'm interested in this. If you can trust me, I'd like to bring this idea to life. And I came back, and then I went and told my boss, I want to, resign. And he was like, "Are you sure, really?" I said, yes. And that's where I kind of then joined Aspire as the chief editor of Aspire.
So you and your friend kind of co-founded Aspire and you began there. And this is your transition from being an employee to an entrepreneur in a way.
Yes,
you
in a way.
You resigned and you
Co-founded Aspire,
yeah.
And took on the responsibility of a chief editor, which I had never done before.
Yeah.
Like I told you. But then again, it is about tapping in, having the faith in yourself. And by then I had done so much of work on myself that, Shagufta, you can do it.
Yeah, you had the confidence.
I had the confidence, yes.
Yeah.
So then I started with Aspire. That you can say was an entrepreneurial journey for me to start with.
Yeah.
And in 2.5 years that I've been the chief editor of Aspire, it's been very well received. I've been complimented many, many times on the work that I've done, which pleases me to see that, yes, I've done it.
Yeah. And then when did you start your journey with image transformation?
So I have been doing this work, right, for me for the last 8-10 years. And I thought it was time now so I was working with parents and individuals on the side always, not that I had given it up. But now I thought it was also time to launch myself as an image transformation specialist. So I've been doing little work here and there, but I thought it's time now to actually also launch my brand and myself as an image transformation specialist. And that's what I did.
Wow. So now with under image transformation specialist, as an image transformation specialist, you work with parents, you work with individuals. Tell us about this journey now. How does it feel?
How does it feel? Well, I love it because my life, as you just heard me speak, it's all about transformation and change and growth.
Yeah.
Right? And I believe that if you want to do something, you can. It's just a matter of choice. You just have to decide that you want to do it and you can do it. And if you feel yourself stuck at some place or limited by something, go and seek help. That's what I don't see people doing, right? So all you need to do is work on yourself, get help in that space if you require to. I still, for me, like I said, the journey of growth and transformation will never stop. And there's one quote that I believe it's by Bob Dylan, and he says, the minute you stop growing is the minute you start dying.
Yeah.
So
life is all about growth.
Growth, right? And evolution. And you have to grow and you have to evolve. We all want that. We are not happy being stagnant at the same position all the time. Growth is in our nature.
Yeah.
So we have to grow.
And also, there is something about your journey that I realized you have been investing in yourself.
A lot.
Right? Even financially. At the time when things were not so great financially, you did your MBA with the help of your aunt, God bless her, with the help of your aunt, you did your MBA. And then later you did that course on image transformation, which also needed money, right? So you invested in yourself.
I still am.
You're still doing it.
I still do it, because like I said, growth should never stop. So what I am today, of course, I don't want to stop here. I want to grow and become more. And there's so much more that I want to do. And each level of you will require a different version of you. What you're today, it'll not help you when you want to be here. You have to grow, you have to evolve to get there.
Yeah.
And to get there, of course, it's a bigger playing field for you.
Yeah.
So every top player needs a coach. You look at any sports, you look at anything, all the top players, they still have coaches. You need that. To up your game, you need that little bit of training and coaching. So I still invest in myself.
Yeah. You still go for coaching and you
I still have coaches that I work with for myself.
Yeah. So while you're coaching others, you're investing in yourself and getting coached. This is fantastic, Shagufta. So let's shift gears a little bit here and talk about the energy. Right now, you're working as a transformation coach. You're also managing Aspire in some way, and there is a lot happening in your life, right?
It is.
How do you recharge your battery? What's your way of rejuvenating yourself? Do you take like vacations, or do you go for? How do you relax yourself?
Well, vacations, definitely, I love to take vacations, but I haven't been able to take a nice vacation in a very long time, just because when you are starting something as a new entrepreneur, you need to give it the time and the energy. But then again, it's my work that drives me. So the little breaks that I take here and there is not a big vacation, but it's just like, okay, go out and do and enjoy what you like to do. Go out and watch a movie if that's what's fun for you. Go out, have a dinner. That can also be, or just go somewhere where you kind of feel nice about yourself. Do these little things. It doesn't always have to be a big vacation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's the little moments that kind of recharges your battery.
It does, right? Vacations will come, and there are some people who also take vacations. And ultimately, it's what works for you.
Yeah.
Right? You don't live by the rules or the lives of others.
Absolutely.
Do what works for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, looking at your journey, right? It has been quite a struggle.
Adventure?
Adventure, right?
Struggle and adventure.
Yeah. And in the beginning, I said that this is a wonderful story. Let me correct that. This is a powerful story. This is really a story of power, the story of strength, right? Looking back at your journey now, Shagufta, what is it that you would like to give the credit to for your success? What's your secret?
Believing, so the credit actually goes to none other than me, because it was me who made the choice to change my life. Yeah. Wherein there was not one person back then who said you're doing the right thing. Not because they could not see my pain, but because they were scared of how I would go forward. And then it came down to the decision and the choice that I made for myself that actually changed the direction of my life completely. Right? So it's always about the choices that you make that determines the direction of your life. Yeah. And you're always co-creating. It's not about destiny. So a lot of people say, oh, it's destiny. And I say it's not, because I used to live with that, school of thought that it's about destiny, but not anymore. With all the work that I've done, I say you're the master of your life. You're the co-creator of your life. And the co-creation happens with the choices that you make. Yeah. And you have the power of choice. You've been given this power of choice by the Almighty to create the life that you wanted, the way you wanted. And that happens by the choices that you make.
Yeah. And in your case, you've made a lot of bold choices, right? What was that? Do you remember any of those times when you were about to make that choice? What was the inner voice telling you at that time?
The fears again, right? It's always what stops you is the fear of the uncertainty, because you don't know what lies ahead. Yeah. Or what's going to be there. And that is what stops a lot of people from taking the plunge or taking the step forward, because of the fears that are there on the other side, the unknown fears, because you don't know what's going to happen when you take this step forward. Isn't it? And that's the chatter that goes on in your mind all the time that stops people from doing what they really want to do. The fears. Yeah. And again, it comes back to the same thing that when you work or when you make the choices as to when you're really working from the space of who it is that you truly are and what is it that you truly desire, you get the answers. All the answers lie within you. You know what's best for you. It's just a matter of tapping into that. You have the powers within you. Each one of us has that power within us. It's just a matter of tapping inside those powers, aligning yourself to your truth, knowing what you want for yourself, and then walking that path, not fearing the uncertainties that lay ahead. Yeah. I'm not saying there are going to be no challenges. There are going to be challenges. It's, sometimes it may be a smoother road. For some time, it may be the challenges may be a little bit more. For some, it may be a smooth sailing. It depends, right? But then the point here is that would you rather live your life doing what you love and following that path, or be stuck in doing things that you don't enjoy doing just because you have a fear that you don't know what's going to happen if you take this step forward?
And I'm glad you took those decisions, and it's like it has transformed your life at many stages, right?
It has, completely.
So Shagufta, as we conclude here, one final question. What's the best way for people to reach out to you, people who would like to have guidance from you, coached from you, and to be coached from you?
Well, the best way to reach out to me is pick up a phone and give me a call.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm open to having a conversation, discussing this with you. Again, I don't go by the rules that I don't really have I'm there on social media, but I'm not very active on Instagram. I'm there on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, send me a message, or pick up the phone and talk to me. Leave me a message. I'll always get back. Sometimes I can't get back immediately, but I always do. If, I'm happy to have the conversation because I'm committed to helping people transform their lives, even if I have to do it one person at a time.
Absolutely. And that's a great service. You're comfortable sharing your number on the show and let people call you?
Of course. So awesome. Are you going to put it down?
I'll put it in the show notes. Yeah, I'll take your number and put it in the show notes.
And also you can share my LinkedIn profile. So if they want, they can connect with me on LinkedIn.
So we'll share your number and your LinkedIn profile in the show notes and in the description for YouTube. Shagufta, thank you so much for taking our time and joining us here on the Be Your Own Boss podcast.
Thank you so much, Sachin. I enjoyed conversing with you and sharing my story, sharing my journey. And if I can just, tell the people on this show is...
Yes, please.
Invest in yourself. That's the best investment you're ever going to make. And that's the way you're going to actually accelerate your growth. Do the things that you really love. So don't shy away from that. Don't see it as an expense. See it as an investment in yourself, where you're actually going to see your life transform, the lives of people around you transform. Okay, I said you can't serve from an empty bowl.
Yes.
You got to fill yourself up. Yes. And only then can you serve others. And the others can be anything or anybody around you.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that was Shagufta Patel, the image transformation specialist. And you've been listening to Be Your Own Boss.